Okay, so today we are diving into what is, well, it's one of the most astonishing stories of failure in history.
It's a failure, but not in the way you'd think.
Exactly. It's the failure of an institution to permanently erase an idea. And our subject is Baruch Spinoza, a man whose ideas weren't just disagreed with, they were literally intended to be obliterated, cursed, forgotten forever.
It's a spectacular mission for this deep dive. We're tracking the ideological journey of one person. We'll be focusing on the intense sources around his excommunication, the herem, in 1656.
And then we'll contrast that with the verdict that history came back with, a verdict from philosophers, scientists, the whole lot.
The narrative arc is just immense. I mean, from being declared unfit to even associate with a single community.
To becoming a universal architect of modernity, the starting line has to be that moment, that incredible dramatic judgment.
Absolutely. To get the gravity, you really have to picture the scene. It's July 27, 1656. We're in Amsterdam, in the Portuguese Jewish community, which was thriving but also incredibly anxious.
And Spinoza is just a young man.
Just 23 years old.
Yeah.
And he's standing before the Mamad, the governing board. The ceremony itself is just theatrical and terrifying. The Ark of the Torah is open. That signifies divine judgment is present.
Yeah.
And the council is about to issue a decree that's not just about punishment. It's about severing him from existence.
And the sources show the intent was just ruthless. It was so clear. Condemn, isolate, silence, and I think most importantly, forget. They were aiming for total oblivion.
And here is the immediate insight that just grabs you when you read the decree itself. The final clause.
Ah, yes.
The council knew their efforts might not be enough. The last part explicitly prohibits anyone from reading anything written by Spinoza or anything he might ever write.
Which is fascinating. It's an admission of sorts. If they really thought the spiritual curse was enough to condemn him, why bother banning his books?
Exactly. It's an implicit acknowledgement right there in the moment of condemnation that the real danger wasn't his soul. It was his idea.
They knew ideas survive curses. It's a chilling, preemptive strike against intellectual survival.
It speaks volumes about the power of what they saw as his heresy.
So let's move right into that, into the magnitude of this formal act of erasure. I mean, what were the charges that could possibly warrant such an extreme response?
Well, the Mamre noted that they had long had knowledge of the evil opinions and acts of Baruch Spinoza. They talk about his failure to mend his wicked ways, and the judgment cites abominable heresies which he practiced and taught.
Monstrous deeds, too. The language is so strong.
It is. The community felt they'd exhausted every means of correction, that he was just fundamentally corrupting their internal order.
And the herem itself isn't just, a quiet dismissal. It's an active, dramatic damnation. What was the specific language they used?
The language is borrowed directly from the most severe biblical precedents.
Yeah.
They didn't just excommunicate him. The text says, we excommunicate, expel, curse, and damn Baruch Spinoza.
Wow.
They invoke the curse Joshua used on Jericho, the curse Elisha used on the boys who mocked him. This isn't just theological disagreement. This is summoning divine wrath.
And it extends into every single aspect of his life. Day, night, indoors, outdoors.
It's total in its scope. It's reaching for absolute annihilation of his identity. Cursed be he by day, and cursed be he by night. Cursed be he when he lies down, and cursed be he when he rises up.
And they wished for God to blot out his name from under heaven.
Separate him from all the tribes of Israel. It was a genuine attempt to just rip his very existence from the fabric of his people.
The isolation orders are maybe the most jarring part. They turn a spiritual curse into a tangible physical quarantine. What were people in the community actually forbidden from doing?
They had to enact a total blockade. No one could communicate with him orally or in writing. No one could show him any favor. No one could stay with him under the same roof.
And that one detail.
The one that always stands out.
Yeah.
No one was to come within 4 L's of him. An L is about 1.5 feet, so that's a mandated personal exclusion zone of about 6 feet.
A decree designed to make him literally untouchable.
Untouchable and invisible within his former world.
It's a picture of just intense social and spiritual terror. But I have to ask, for you listening to this story fresh, why? Why such disproportionate severity? Why go for a full-scale spiritual nuclear option over philosophical ideas?
Well, that's the critical question, isn't it? You have to look at the community's context. This community in Amsterdam was made up almost entirely of former Marranos.
Right, Jews whose families had been forcibly converted to Catholicism back in Spain and Portugal?
Exactly. They had recently escaped the Inquisition and found this This tentative tolerance in the Protestant Dutch Republic.
So they were walking a political tightrope?
Precisely. They lived in constant fear. Fear that if they showed any internal disorder, or if they were seen to be housing a radical heretic who challenged the very idea of a personal God, the kind of God even the Calvinist Dutch understood, they risked renewed persecution.
So the herem wasn't just about theology.
Far from it. It was really an act of communal self-preservation. They were judging Spinoza by the unforgiving logic of survival. His ideas were an existential threat to their community's fragile place in the world.
That reframes the entire thing. The severity was driven by fear of external authority. It wasn't just internal disgust.
Exactly. They had to signal to the wider Dutch society, we control our radicals. They prioritized conformity and obedience over everything. And that was their final verdict. Silence and oblivion.
Okay, so now we make this massive pivot. The community uses all its power to make sure Spinoza is forgotten. But what did history deliver instead?
History delivered immortality, foundational status. The event that was meant to create oblivion became, ironically,
his origin story.
One of the most dramatic origin stories in all of philosophy.
Yeah.
The man declared unfit to exist within one small community became a universal architect of modern thought.
It's a complete clash of standards. The community judged him on obedience. History judged him on intellectual fertility, on transformative vision.
And the irony is just perfect. The more severe the anathema, the more complete the historical reversal. Their attempt to erase him only made him unavoidable.
And here's where his ideas really take root. Let's look at the verdict of the philosophers. He became this foundation that so many subsequent thinkers felt they had to build on, starting with the heavyweights.
G.W.F. Hegel, one of the most significant philosophers of the 19th century, he made a judgment that's still quoted today. He said, to be a philosopher, one must first be a Spinozist.
That is a powerful claim. For someone who doesn't immediately grasp Spinoza, what did Hegel mean? Why was Spinoza's monism this essential starting point for modern philosophy?
That's a great question, because his vision is deceptively simple, but so radically profound. Monism, for Spinoza, just means there is only one substance in the entire universe. Everything is connected.
Deus sive natura.
God or nature. He said God is nature and nature is God. This isn't the bearded man in the sky, it's the structure of reality itself. The unified, impersonal, necessary system behind everything.
So he just erases the separation between the physical world we see and some transcendent spiritual world above it.
He unifies them completely. And for Hegel, that provided the necessary logical foundation. Modern thought couldn't really begin until Spinoza had shattered those old dualities like Descartes' mind-body split and established a single, cohesive reality.
Okay, now let's talk about a more complicated relationship. Friedrich Nietzsche, the acid-tongued skeptic. How did he see the deeply rationalist Spinoza?
It seems complex on the surface, an atheist embracing a philosopher of God. But Nietzsche, in his private letters, called Spinoza his secret precursor. What they shared was a kind of radical honesty.
They both rejected some foundational concepts of Judeo-Christian thought.
Profoundly. Free will, first and foremost. For Spinoza, everything is necessary, an expression of nature's laws. Then there's the rejection of moral absolutes and teleology.
The idea that the universe has a purpose, a divine plan.
Right. They both agree the universe isn't moralizing, and it isn't moving towards some finish line. Nietzsche admired Spinoza's sheer intellectual courage, his refusal to project human desires onto this vast, indifferent universe.
And this influence wasn't just limited to these two giants. This consensus was forming everywhere.
Yes. Schopenhauer credited Spinoza with restoring seriousness to metaphysics. But maybe Henri Bergson captured it best with his famous line, every philosopher has two philosophies, his own and Spinoza's.
He became the unavoidable silent interlocutor.
You had to deal with him.
So let's connect this to the material world, the verdict of science. This is where his influence moves from pure metaphysics to cosmology.
And provides a philosophical home for the scientific worldview. I mean, think about the 20th century's greatest scientific mind, Albert Einstein.
Right.
When he was asked if he believed in God, his answer wasn't theological. It was pure Spinoza. He said, I believe in Spinoza's God, who reveals himself in the orderly harmony of what exists.
Not a God who concerns himself with the fate and actions of human beings. That is the ultimate scientific endorsement. He's adopting Spinoza's God as structural necessity, not as an interventionist will.
That's the key. Spinoza's identification of God with nature makes him a direct precursor of modern scientific naturalism. His universe is governed by necessity, by intelligible, lawful order. If God is the structure of reality,
then to study physics is to study God?
Precisely. His philosophy isn't just compatible with science, it provides the metaphysics for science. He's a philosopher of determinism, which is perfectly aligned with classical physics. He builds that bridge.
Okay, moving on to his political freedom and cultural stature. His philosophy wasn't just about cosmic structure. It had these immediate, explosive implications for society.
He's undeniably a founder of secular democracy and a foundational theorist of freedom. Crucially, Spinoza grounds liberty in reason, not in obedience to some king or divine mandate.
His theological political treatise.
Still one of the most radical defenses of freedom of thought ever written. He argued the true goal of the state isn't to make men pious, but to make them free.
And this vision was so powerful that even his opponents had to deal with him.
Absolutely. The political theorist Leo Strauss, who was deeply critical of secular modernity, treated Spinoza as the unavoidable challenge. Strauss called him the most dangerous and therefore most important enemy of revealed religion.
So even in opposition, his foundational status was affirmed.
Right, and he transcended the dusty archives and became a cultural archetype. The lone, incorruptible thinker.
The lens grinder.
Yes, his story gets mythologized. Jorge Luis Borges wrote poems about him, the serene thinker polishing lenses while contemplating eternity. George Eliot translated his most difficult work, The Ethics, calling it a work of unmatched intellectual dignity.
And Rebecca Goldstein's fantastic phrase, the renegade Jew who gave us modernity. He becomes a cultural symbol of intellectual bravery.
A complete transformation from social outcast to moral hero.
Okay, let's bring this to its incredible conclusion, the ultimate irony. The religious community sought his erasure, the secular state eventually claimed him. It's the civic climax of this whole story.
The irony is breathtaking. The Dutch state, which in 1656 just sort of tolerated the community's exclusion of Spinoza,
Look the other way.
looked the other way. Eventually, they embraced him as a national philosopher, a key figure in their own history of tolerance and intellect.
Tell us about the memorialization. They didn't just rehabilitate his name, they put him in bronze.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There's a prominent bronze statue of Spinoza in Amsterdam, right near where he used to live. And the key point is the inscription on the pedestal.
What does it say?
It affirms the principle of freedom of thought. The precise concept the herem was so desperately trying to extinguish, it is a direct, permanent contradiction of the original decree.
The ultimate historical clapback.
And it doesn't stop there. His home in Rijnsburg, the Spinoza House, is preserved as a national monument. He's officially in the Dutch national canon as a foundational figure.
So, if we just step back and summarize these two opposing verdicts, the Jewish community pronounced a curse intended to blot out his name.
And history responded by having the Dutch state engrave that name in bronze. The philosophers engraved it in thought. The scientists engraved it in cosmology. The sources make it undeniably clear. The herem failed in every single respect.
The attempt to create oblivion instead created this powerful, almost mythic origin story for secular modernity. The community tried to bury his legacy.
But his philosophy is still vital. It's still actively shaping how we see reality. Spinoza, excommunicated for abominable heresies, is now the one who taught us how to think freely, see nature without illusion, and ground ethics in reason instead of fear.
What they sought to erase, the world discovered it desperately needed.
Exactly.
And that failure of erasure serves only one real purpose for us today as we look through these documents. It just starkly reveals how dangerous an unflinching search for truth can be to fragile authority. Whether that authority is religious or political, it makes you consider, what modern institutions today are still struggling with that same fragility and what powerful unifying ideas they might be trying to blot out. Something to think about long after this deep dive is done.